All right, we are going to have this Rizzo report begin fittingly with another Rizzo. That is Anthony Rizzo, or Tony from the block, if you will. How about Anthony Rizzo taking care of his home turf? Why not? If you have that short porch and right and you're a left-handed power hitter, why not take advantage of where you are? Good thing you play 81 games at home when you're playing at Yankee Stadium. What did he do last night? Well, for the first time in his great career, he had his first 3 home run game. It was a huge win for the Yankees over Baltimore, a 12-8 win. 7 of his major league leading 8 homers this season have come in the Bronx. Why not? That's where you play the most of your games. Take advantage. According to StatCast, Rizzo would have had just 1 homer last night if the game had been played in any other ballpark across the majors. So he had 3. Only 1 would have been a long ball outside of Yankee Stadium. Rizzo leads the Yanks with 8 home runs and 18 RBI. No other player has double-digit RBIs. Rizzo has just 22 home runs in 141 games last season. Rizzo has more than a third of the Yankees' total home runs. That's 22 this year. And by the way, what an opportunity for him to continue to give to his foundation. For every single home run hit, he donates to the Rizzo Foundation. I think they raised over $15,000 last night. So good for the Yanks, good for Anthony Rizzo, good for the kids that are battling cancer and people in need. All right, from Anthony Rizzo to Mike Trout and the Angels, they are off to a very good start, albeit a quiet good start after missing last week's series in Houston after he had that hand that was bruised by a hit by pitch. He's hitting .474, 3 home runs in 5 games since his return. He leads the majors in OPS. He is serving notice to Ohtani that he will still contend for MVP. Why not? 2 teammates going up against each other for MVP. Of course, Mike Trout already has 3 of those awards. After losing 3 of 4 against the Astros to begin the season, the Halos, they've won 10 of their last 14 ball games. They have a 3.41 starter ERA, the unheralded rotation at least behind Ohtani and Syndergaard, so far, surprisingly, has been the key to the season. Of course, we know what Mike Trout's going to do when he's healthy, but the pitching, in addition to Ohtani and Syndergaard, has been impressive. Ohtani goes again tonight. He was brilliant in his last start on Wednesday in Houston. 6 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs. He had 12 punch-outs. Angels are off to a good start, and that's with Ohtani struggling offensively a little bit. Of course, he's doing things on both sides of the ball, such a unique, dynamic player. Angels looking for their first postseason berth since 2014. Let's get Mike Trout into the postseason. Let's get Mike Trout to a World Series. Now, in 2014, they were swept by the Royals in the ALDS that year in Trout's only career postseason appearance. I, for one, would love to see Mike Trout be able to have another postseason run. How about a couple of guys that are making massive impacts on their new team? And we're going to start with a couple of pitchers. Carlos Rodon and Kevin Gausman have been great for their new squad. Cy Young winner Robbie Ray went to Seattle. It caused a chain reaction in the free agent starting pitcher market. The Jays, well, they nabbed Kevin Gausman from the Giants. Gausman has been superb for the Jays, posting a .219 earned run average, 31 strikeouts, 0 walks in his first 4 starts. Meanwhile, the Giants signed Carlos Rodon to a 2-year, $44 million deal to replace Gausman. The deal does contain a potential opt-out for Rodon after this year, but he's been tremendous. 3-0, a 117 earned run average, 38 Ks in 23 innings across his first 4 starts with San Francisco. He's in great company. The 38 punchouts surpassed Tim Lincecum, who had 35 in 2009 for the most through a pitcher's first 4 starts of for a season in club history. So, Mad Dog, I know that you didn't think Robbie Ray was a Cy Young Award winner, but you didn't think really anybody in the American League stood out.
Right.
Kevin Gausman has been every bit as good as Robbie Ray was for the Toronto Blue Jays. He's looked fantastic. And Carlos Rodon went from the Chicago White Sox in the American League, of course, to the National League, to your San Francisco Giants, and he's been great as well. So those are the things that you like to see when it comes to free agency or trades or pickups or whatever. A guy that has an impact on his new club.
And throwing Robbie Ray's done a good job. One bad start. Robbie Ray has pitched pretty well for Seattle. So all these 3 pitchers who I thought were going to be shaky. Rodon has not been healthy, so you wondered. Gausman back in the American League East, where he did not pitch well for the Orioles, you wondered. And Ray coming off a huge year, could he double down on it? You wondered. And so far, all 3 guys done an excellent job. Rodon has been tremendous. I'd be a little worried. He's got to do this now 30 times. So, and last year, he fizzled late and was not good in the postseason when he had the bad arm and everything else. He was bad on that Game 4. So you got to keep an eye on that. His health, if he's healthy, looks like he's going to be a big addition, especially in that ballpark. And the Giants, listen, and Jock Peterson, your buddy Jock Peterson, who's not a big Mad Dog fan, as we learned last year in the World Series. You were there, you saw it. He's done a heck of a job. He was great for the Dodgers, at the end when they won their title in the bubble. He was very good for Atlanta before they got to the World Series and helping them beat Milwaukee and a lot of home runs. And he's been very good for San Francisco out of the gate, and they need him without Longoria and without obviously Posey. And remember, Crawford hasn't done a lot so far, and Belt's done well, but Crawford hasn't done a lot, so they need some offense, and Crawford's done a good job there.
Yeah, Jock Peterson has the flair for the dramatic. Jock Peterson comes up in those big moments. I mean, he, a couple of days ago, we were just talking about how Jock was tied for the league lead in home runs. He does a great job, whether he's in that leadoff spot, whether he's the designated hitter, whether he's in the cleanup spot. He has a flair for the dramatic, and as I mentioned, the big moments. A couple of other guys that are making big impacts for their team, two for the Mets, and one's not even a player, one's a manager. We talk about Max Scherzer, and we talk about Buck Showalter. And you just were talking to Tom Caron of Nesson, that's saying that perhaps Alex Cora is the most valuable manager in all of baseball. I'd argue that Buck Showalter is right there too, in terms of guys leaning on him and just the experience that he brings to calm down a situation. I'm not certain that anybody would have thought that the Mets had an opportunity to go 15-5 tonight in their first 20 games.
100% right. Listen, let's be fair. If I told you right now that the Mets, Blue Jays, a team I did not think would be great, Giants and Dodgers would not be in the postseason, you would be shocked. The Giants and Dodgers look like they haven't missed a beat. We know that LA is great anyway. The Blue Jays have played very well against good competition. They have 4-1 against the Red Sox. They played well against the Yankees, and they won a series in Houston. That's two teams. And the Mets, I mean, they're going to get DeGrom eventually, you'd hope. We know how good Scherzer is. Buck always gets the team to steer the ship in the right direction. They're winning a lot of magical games. They're due for a good run. The division is a little spotty. Keep an eye on the Mets, too. If I told you right now, Alanna, that the Mets, Giants, Dodgers, and Blue Jays are all going to be in the postseason, you would probably be very surprised if I wasn't correct on all four teams. Agreed?
Well, I think so, and I picked all four of those teams to make the postseason at the beginning of the year. We have to keep in mind, though, the Mets were doing this last year. I mean, they led the league, or they led the National League East, at least in first place, for almost wire to wire until they collapsed in August. So I want to see what the Mets continue to do as the season goes along, but I love the fact that Buck Showalter is there, and they're doing all of this with a starting ERA that's impressive. Their lineup is hitting. And Chris Bassett has been impressive for the Mets, too. I know you didn't like what he said about the commissioner, but he's been great for that starting rotation. I want to see if they can continue to sustain this, and also we'll see what happens when Jacob deGrom gets back. Anthony DeComo said that there's no timetable for his return. Could be June, could be July, could be August, but the good thing is they don't have to rush him back, considering the way the rest of the rotation is performing. I knew the Dodgers were going to be there. I knew the Giants were going to be there. I'm impressed at how well the Giants have just picked up from where they've left off. I know that there's been a couple of calls you didn't necessarily like, but my God, I don't know that anybody thought the Giants were going to do what they were doing last year already again this year. Farhan Zaidi is moving those puzzle pieces the way that he's supposed to move it. And I did think that the Blue Jays were going to make the postseason. They're impressive. And you mentioned it's not just the lineup, but the starting rotation is doing it as well. So far, so good for those four clubs.
Let me put a little pressure on the Giants right out of the gate to have a little fun with it. Last year, most Giant people are doing handstands because they won 107 games, which was completely unexpected and won the division. They lost 2 home games. They lasted 4 days in the postseason. This year, that's not going to be good enough. This year, San Francisco, on its second run of great success, is going to have to make some noise in the postseason. Last year, they got away with it. They lost Game 5 to the Dodgers. They didn't win. They lost. This year, the Giants are going to have to play deep into the NL. We shall see. We shall see.
No question. But they shouldn't have had to play the Dodgers really in that first round anyway.
Too.
But that's neither here nor there.
They should change
that's neither here nor there.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And remember, this year it's going to be a little better because this year, you have to win the division because if you do and you got the second best record or the first best record, you get a bye in the divisional round. Yeah. Last year, the Giants and Dodgers, what were they playing for? They were playing for a Game 5 at home. Big deal. This year, you're playing for avoiding a best of 3. That's a huge advantage. So that will be an interesting pennant race all year long. Good job out of Alanna.